Earlier today, Cyberpunk 2077 got a new hotfix update. This coming just a little over a week since Ray Tracing Overdrive dropped, and this update's actually going to be a pretty important and critical one for the game overall for many of you, but also towards the end of this video, I want to go over how some patch 1.7/Phantom Liberty gameplay was just recently found. The download for this new hotfix update is going to be pretty small. It's just about 14 megabytes on GOG, and this is going to be a PC exclusive hotfix. The first thing this update will address is dynamic resolution scaling. With patch 1.62, you were able to turn on both path tracing and dynamic resolution scaling at the same time, which I guess NVIDIA and CDPR didn't want you to do, as now the option will be grayed out if path tracing is on. Dynamic resolution scaling will basically lower the resolution of your game on the fly to try and help you hit a certain FPS number. So if you want Cyberpunk to run at 60 FPS, and if you're struggling to hit that, it'll automatically lower the resolution of the game as you're playing to help you get there. And I think this is just a case of path tracing was built around NVIDIA's DLSS technology, so they want you using that and not dynamic resolution scaling. But what is the far more important side of this update are the two crash fixes that came. One goes unnamed and the other is around the final quest in the game. One of the pretty unfortunate byproducts of patch 1.62 for Cyberpunk 2077, that being the previous update from 9 days ago that added in the new ray tracing mode, but unfortunately it also added in a bunch of crashing problems. There's a big issue immediately where many users could not launch Cyberpunk at all after that update. I know though some of this was due to mods breaking and just needing to clear out some of those old mods. It definitely seems like some other things were going on, and even today there are still people having problems launching the game at all. Separately, there have been some in-game issues and crashes around certain game moments, at least one of which was definitely addressed today. So the game looks better, but you're also crashing a bunch more and actually couldn't even beat the game. Several users reported having crashing problems during the Knockin' on Heaven's Door job, this being a part of the final group of jobs after the point of no return in Cyberpunk 2077. That making it a big deal. Many people quite literally couldn't finish the game anymore. And the odd part about this crash was some users were able to actually get around it or fix it by changing their graphic settings, such as turning down the revolution or turning off things like film grain. Thankfully today, CDPR does seem to have officially fixed this though. At least probably, if this incredibly vague patch note is anything to go off of. Now users are able to once again finish Cyberpunk 2077, or at least there shouldn't be these major crashing issues right at the final quests of the game. And the other crash that was fixed that they don't actually name here was likely during the Total Immortal job. There was also a pretty consistent crash during this job when you're entering into Arasaka, both of these seeming to be connected to the Ray Tracing Overdrive update in one way or another. Although unfortunately, it seems like there are quite a few people still having issues launching the game even after this latest hotfix. There are quite a few early reports of this script error continuing to pop up, and I actually had the same problem. I was getting the script error after patch 1.62, but a reinstall fixed it for me. I've seen some other workarounds or fixes online, such as launching the game directly from the exe file and not using a launcher, or even some people are downgrading their graphics drivers, which seem to help them. So it really seems like this new hotfix was addressing a lot of the issues that popped up with patch 1.62, and those issues were fairly widespread. You're able to find a ton of posts online of new crashing issues popping up after that previous update, but also more notably, there was a huge influx of negative reviews that poured onto Steam after patch 1.62. And one of the other unfortunate problems with patch 1.62 that we've seen kind of get extended today is mods breaking. Both patch 1.62 and this new hotfix are going to break mods, notably core mods like Cyber Engine tweaks. As long as the exe for the game is updated, mods like that will also need to be updated to work with it. So you have to wait at least a little while for this new version to come out, but hopefully it's relatively quickly. Although there definitely is quite a bit of frustration from users because mods broke 10 days ago and then are now breaking yet again today. But what made this a bit worse is, for one reason or another, with patch 1.62, there was actually a bit of a larger impact on mods this time around. Patch 1.62 seemed to break more mods than typical. So some mods like native settings UI, which typically haven't broken with some of these Cyberpunk updates, did break. And in the case of native settings UI, that mod is still broken today 9 days later. This becomes a bigger issue as this is a dependency mod, so other mods depend on it to function. So now in turn, there's a bunch of mods that many users are not able to use, and in turn, they can't actually update their games and use their old save games anymore. But hey, if you do want to ease your time downgrading to the previous version so all of your mods can continue working. This is really easy to do on GOG, and you can actually get the game for 50% off on GOG using my affiliate link down below if you're interested. The major public reaction to the new Ray Tracing Overdrive mode overall has been pretty positive. People are impressed with it and really viewing it as the future of gaming, but at the same time, you can obviously see quite a few people are frustrated with CDPR. Ray Tracing Overdrive is a new feature that really only a small subset of users can even use, but of course now we're seeing a bunch of problems that came with it that break the game for a much larger group of users. So you have people who couldn't even use the new features that are still getting the issues from the update, and those people are pretty frustrated. Although, if you are one of those people who couldn't really run the new Overdrive mode, I may actually have some good news for you. A new mod named Ray Tracing Overdrive Optimizations will make the new mode a bit easier to run and yield pretty big performance benefits for a lot of people out there. Digital Foundry did a really good standalone video on this mod, but basically you can see up to 30% more FPS with Ray Tracing Overdrive turned on, but it comes at a bit of a cost. This mod reduces the number of ray bounces with Ray Tracing Overdrive from 2 to 1 bounce. So it's almost going to be a nice middle ground approach. It's not quite full-on Ray Tracing Overdrive with those beautiful 2 ray bounces, but things will still be better than typical ray tracing. You are still getting some of the upgrades and benefits of path tracing, and it definitely is a visual upgrade to the game overall. This mod will make Ray Tracing Overdrive actually usable on AMD GPUs, and even some of the lower tier NVIDIA GPUs, like a 3050 to a 2080, are able to play the game at 30 FPS with path tracing. So if you've been really wanting to try this new mode, this mod is definitely going to give some of you the ability to do so. And yes, the mod does work with the latest hotfix. But CDPR may have also subtly shown us some gameplay of Phantom Liberty and/or patch 1.7. An eagle-eyed Reddit user named Swiper discovered that during their most recent GDC presentation, CDPR was likely using an updated build of the game for the gameplay. So during this, you can actually spot some UI changes. So enemies are now going to have this unique tiered health bar above their head. It's going to be broken up into individual sections. What is far more notable are some of the HUD changes. A third quick use slot can be spotted in the bottom left corner. Typically you only have 2, one for your cyberware or grenades, and then one for your healing item, but now there's a third one that appears to be dedicated to cyberware. As well as during one segment of this, it almost looks like your healing item is actually on cooldown. Typically in Cyberpunk, you can just spam the healing item endlessly. It doesn't normally have a cooldown. Beyond that, Swiper spotted some other things during this gameplay. It looked like there were some denser crowds. This is likely going to be the psycho crowd setting that is technically in the game, but you can't turn it on currently, as well as some new options in the vehicle menu. You'll now have an option for drawing your weapon and even a dedicated reverse camera. The draw weapon button isn't super surprising. We know vehicle combat is coming, they've confirmed that, and the new reverse camera option, which is likely just going to show you the back of your car from the click of a button, is probably really handy as you're getting into car chases and firing on other cars that are chasing you. That dedicated cyberware quick use slot is definitely nice from a quality of life standpoint. In the past, CDPR has described how more cyberware feeling cyberware is one of the features planned for patch 1.7, and seeing this new button added makes me hope that some of that means actual new functionality, not just cosmetic changes to cyberware, but new features that are associated with them and hopefully some new cyberware options. And the healing change, if true, could be a real interesting one. Healing in Cyberpunk truly is a get out of jail free card where you could really just spam it overall, but having to use that sparingly would be a huge balance change and really a fundamental change to combat overall. Or maybe they finally added that hardcore mode. If you didn't know, Cyberpunk 2077 was intended to have a hardcore mode on launch, but it ended up being cut from the game. Although if you're interested, you can check out this video where I go over a bunch of the features cut from the game that modders have added back in, including the hardcore mode.